All right, yeah, let's get fun.
I bet.
I'm coming.
Okay, we're still missing a bunch of phones.
Yeah. I really can't see shit. I can't. You're just too big, too strong.
You need a new paper. Huh?
I say because Luke Sweetie's gone.
Good boy.
That drive off of
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so the question is, what is social psychology? And there's 3 parts of the definition that you need to remember. So, how we think about, or social thinking, how we influence, and how we relate to others. So check your answer and make sure you have all 3 parts. How we think about, how we influence, and how we relate to others. Okay, go ahead and have out your 4.1 notes when we finish those up today. We already finished that. So yesterday we talked about attribution styles, right? On if things are, if we attribute things to a disposition, like that is a personality trait, or if we attribute things to the situation. And when we do this attribution, right, we are subjected to errors. And one of the major errors is the fundamental attribution error. So when we look at ourselves, we typically, when we do something good, we did it because that's who we are. We're a good person. Or for example, with college acceptances, right? We'll think of it as, well, I earned it. I deserve to go into this college because I worked hard. When we do something bad, we typically blame the situation, right? Or we say that life is unfair, or that it's not our fault. And then we do essentially the opposite when it comes to others, right? So when others behave good, we say, oh, it was just that situation. They're not just like inherently good. Or let's say somebody gets into the college you want to get into, you say that's unfair, or they only got into blank because, right? Where you would say for you got in it because you deserved it. And then when their behavior is bad, we see as a result of who they are. And when we look at what we do as good, that's the self-serving bias. So we like to focus on things that make us feel good about ourselves. And when we look at behavior of others and bad things happening to them, some of us default to the just world phenomenon, which is essentially this idea of karma, right? You get what you deserve. So this idea that if bad things are happening to you, you somehow deserve those bad things. So if somebody is poor, they deserve to be poor, they don't deserve social support, right? It's their fault, they're not hardworking, they're lazy, etc. I hate to break it to you, but good things happen to bad people all the time, and bad things, good things happen to bad people all the time, and bad things happen to good people all the time. So this idea of the just world phenomenon is incorrect. So this is just some examples and an explanation on the fundamental attribution error. Protect your image of being a positive one. Now, all of this is to say, this is people that we're talking about that's not managing mental health disorders. Because, for example, people that are managing depression, they're going to have difficulty with the self-serving bias. They're going to be looking at themselves through a negative light, and so the self-serving bias may not apply to them the same way it would apply to somebody that's not managing depression. There's also cultural implications for all of these biases, right? So in the United States, we're highly individualistic, and so we attribute things, it's easier for us to attribute things to personal traits, right? That's just how the person is. In other cultures, particularly Asian cultures, you're focused on how your behavior impacts the group. How does it represent your family? How does it represent, your community? Right? And being more conscious of your behavior in terms of the overall effects it has, which means you're also less likely to attribute it as, oh, that's that way that person specifically is, to see it as more of a collectivist view. Alright, so this is a little video on the self-serving bias. Can be aware of them, and then, ask ourselves questions, stay curious about why we have these. Could there be another way of looking at something? So, locus of control is how we view, what we can control in our life. So, an internal locus of control means that we believe we have control. We can control things. An external locus of control is that outside forces control us, right? So the world is just sort of happening to us. Now, this is a continuum, so it's not just you either have all internal locus of control or all external locus of control. You can also, in general, have internal locus of control, but when it comes to something specific, like math, you have an external locus of control. So an internal locus of control would believe something like, if I study hard enough and I pay good enough attention, I can get an A on the AP Psych exam. An external locus of control would say, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm always going to fail the AP test, right? So are you able to control your life situation, or are you not? You want an internal locus of control because it's correlated with a bunch of positive things. So it's correlated with higher self-esteem, higher academic achievement, being more independent, overall better health outcomes, so physical health outcomes, and reports of less sadness. Now, those people that are managing anxiety disorders, feeding eating disorders, depressive disorders, they have difficulty, right, with focusing on internal locus of control. A lot of times the people that are managing those disorders feel like they have no control or lack of control. And so part of the therapeutic process would be to help them learn how they can have more control or how they can change their mindset to have more control. I presented you a little psychology today test if you want to take a test on your locus of control. It asks you, I think it's 20 questions. And then it gives you a score. So if you're interested in determining your locus of control, you can do that. So this is a nice video explaining internal versus external locus of control. It also does a good job of kind of showing what therapeutic approaches would look like. So if somebody was in therapy for anxiety, they would practice some of these suggestions.
In this video, I'm going to talk about the importance of the locus of control. What is it? How do you know where you lie on the spectrum of internal to external? And how do you become more internally focused?